Beloved, welcome back to the shop and welcome back to the 2024 annual Winter Truck Emergency Survival Kit, where we're going to go through all 8 categories of things that you should have in your rig if you're pro-ho. The categories are tools and miscellaneous, personal, lighting and visibility, comms and nav, survival gear, first aid, tire management, and recovery. Before we get started, it's probably important for me to note this is for my particular situation. I live in the Cascades up in the mountains in a mountain town. I have a late model F-Series F350 pickup. Modifications are a 16,000-pound winch, coilover suspension, and an air compressor. So tailor this to your need. All right, gentlemen, let us proceed. We're going to start with category number 8, the least important items, tools and miscellaneous. Man, you can't go wrong with these zip ties. Zip ties are really good for fixing a lot of stuff, doing repairs. You can even use this as a traction guide, traction aid, if you get the really big ones. Now, you can't be sending it. You'll just tear them all off. But if you just need a little bit to get going, then you can do it. So heavy-duty zip ties, about a dozen or so. Duct tape. Duct tape can fix radiator hoses. It can fix lots of things. You break something, a shock mount, you could tape something up. It just speaks for itself. The Gorilla Brand. The Gorilla Brand is my favorite. It really does stick. It even sticks when it's wet. A good multi-tool. This is going to give you cutters, pliers, a basic small file. Goodness, you could saw through, you could file through a padlock if you had to in an emergency. One of the handiest tools and something that you have to have is a collapsible shovel. These have been used by the military for a long time. This is the Rhino brand. I really like the Rhino stuff. They make a lot of retrieval gear that is high quality and at an affordable price. And it gives you kind of a saw. I wouldn't count on that. It gives you the pick, the classic combi tool. But if you need to get out of ice or you get high centered on something, having one of these folding saws is very, very important. Your NOCO charger or whatever brand you pick, make sure you keep it charged. You know, you got to keep these things going because they run out of power, and when you need them, then they're not charged. So make sure you set yourself a reminder. Do it on your birthday, whenever. And then a good ice scraper. If you have a truck, you know, the telescoping type, a little bit bigger one so you can reach up. You know, if you're a short king, sometimes these new trucks are pretty hard to get to. And then for me, because I live in a forested area, I always carry a big silky saw. It would take a while, but I could get through pretty much any log within reason and at least get home with it. Category number 7 is going to be clothing and personal gear. A pair of waterproof winter boots. Don't forget socks. Wool socks are good. Wool socks insulate, unlike cotton when they're wet. Some personal items. You can carry toilet paper, but having some wet wipes and some blue shop towels is a good thing to have. A warm hat, a wool beanie or something equivalent that will keep you warm, and a rain jacket. If you have to get out and put on tire chains or you get wet, fall through the ice, this is enough to at least keep you going. So have that. Some winter gloves, something lined that's going to be warm. An extra pair of glasses, you know, your old ones, when you get new ones, throw those in the truck. That way if you lose them or break them, you can get home in the thermal layer. This is a North Face 700 fill, just a big puffy down jacket that you could wear underneath this if it's wet, and this will certainly keep you warm. Category 6 is going to be lighting and visibility. I'll tell you a story. I will always be grateful to a man that stopped and had helped me one time, had a fire extinguisher in a situation that would have absolutely ruined me. I was just getting my excavating business started. I used to smoke cigarettes, and I flipped the cigarette out the window and it flew into the back of my pipe truck, which had a bunch of glue and ABS PVC fittings. That thing started on fire and was fully engulfed, and I pulled over and was just within seconds of losing the truck, and a good Samaritan stopped by and he had this very same Amerex fire extinguisher and he saved my truck, and I am always grateful. So I carry one. Amerex is my favorite brand. These are not all created equal, so make sure you stick with a good brand. 3 road flares. Road flares are very bright. They're very good, versatile pieces of equipment because you can also start a fire in any situation. I don't care how wet your wood is. You put 3 of these things down and you will get a fire going for sure. And a good flashlight, a good high quality flashlight. Stream light's hard to beat. If you're going to have something that you're going to put away that you don't want to invest too much money in, but you want it to be there and work for you. The Streamlight Survivor series, I used to use these when I was a firefighter, career firefighter, and they are tough as nails. So the Streamlight Survivor lights are very nice, and they throw a very long beam. They really cut through fog well. Have some extra batteries, lithium. Category number 5 is going to be comms and navigation. Comms and navigation. There is no substitute, beloved. for a paper map. I know we've gotten dependent upon GPSs, but I'm Gen Xer, so I remember the days of the Thomas Guide where you actually had to pre-plan your trips. But any state that you need to navigate in, or you just don't have cell coverage, or you lose your phone, these are really amazing. You could just grid out where you're at, you can flip to the number, and they're a wonderful, wonderful map, and they can get you around traffic jams and have it for the states that you're going to need to cross. This is a really good investment. Paper maps, if you have them, whatever you have to do, but have that backup. As far as the small kit, I'm always going to carry a GPS. I have a terrible sense of direction. When I was working as a wildland firefighter, especially when I became engine boss, I was really concerned about getting lost or not knowing where the right places were. So I'd always have one or at least one, but sometimes two of these going, dropping breadcrumbs. But these are nice. And the Garmin series, if you use the InReach and you pay for the subscription, I know it's not for everyone, but if you spend a lot of time in the wilderness, these are really valuable because you can text loved ones. Now, if you've got the newer phones, I've got the new iPhone, which has the satellite, and I've actually used that, and that works good as well. So a little bit redundant, but it's not a bad idea to have one. A radio, the little Bofang radios, even if you don't have anyone to talk to, if you can pre-program these for your emergency channels, even though you're not supposed to talk on them, I don't care. If I'm stuck in the snow, I'm going to hit that repeater and I'm going to call for help. So it's not a bad idea to have one. A battery bank, a charger, especially if you can get one with a solar panel on it, and have all of the corresponding cables. I think the cables are important. The cables that you should have are going to be the USB-C to C. If because it's not just your stuff. You got to worry about your kids, your wife, other people. A regular lightning cable for iPhone, a USB-A, and a USB, well, just every possible combination. And don't forget a whistle. A whistle. Oh, your voice does not carry very long, and if you're injured or fatigued, you can't yell for very long, and you can be off the side of the road stuck and no one would hear you. These Fox 40 whistles are super, super loud, very light, and always have that in a kit. Category number 4 is going to be survival gear. Survival gear. Now, I used to be, as I said, a career firefighter in Colorado, and I was lead medic on my engine, and I ran a lot of medical calls in very cold environment. And I can tell you, as important as anything else we ever carried on the truck, we're having warm blankets. Usually people that slip off the road, they're not often injured, but they're very cold. Maybe the car won't run or they've damaged the radiator. And man, dealing with shock and just giving people a little bit of comfort, having a blanket is just absolutely essential in cold climate. If you've got kids, little girls, I carry 3. So just get something small. If you can pilfer one from the airlines, that's a really good size. Just something that fleece that'll work whether it's wet or dry. Space blanket. Man, I am a big fan of the space blanket. I have spent many a cold night under one of these, about 6 foot by 8 or 5 by 7. This is a classic space blanket. These are invaluable. It is a tarp for if you purchase electronics or something and you get caught in the rain, you could wrap it around there, you could tape it up, you could protect things. If you've got to get down in the wet and the slush to untangle someone's cable chains, because East Coast man, he runs cable chains, and so they're always getting wrapped up around the CV joints. You can get under there. You can use it for emergency shelter, emergency warmth. Big fan. This is one of my favorite pieces of kit. Some non-perishable food items. Just next time you're at Sam's Club or Costco, find something like this. Backpacker food is always useful. Power bars, things that are not going to go bad. And if you live in an area that has mice, make sure you put this in a metal box, an ammo can or a plastic Tupperware, something, because they'll get in. Once they get in there, they'll just destroy your truck. And then as far as the smaller items, in a cold climate, you cannot carry water in your truck. It will freeze at night. There's no way that I have found to keep water from freezing, apart from filling it full of vodka, which has its own problems, but an empty container that you can melt snow, whatever. But having a container is important. And then water filtration tablets. You can drop these guys in. You can drink straight from contaminated sources, and they're a pretty good thing to have here. Fire starter, not a bad idea. Minimum a lighter. Lighters are not reliable. They're hard to dry out when they get wet. Not impossible, but always have 2 ways of starting a fire and some sort of a quick fire starter that's impervious to water of your choice. Medical or first aid. Now this is going to depend on your training. As a former medic, EMT, I carry a pretty extensive kit. These are my two favorites. This is a kit from our friends over at Refuge Medical. Very comprehensive. This is going to give you the ability to deal with pretty much any trauma, gunshot wounds. I'm not going to go into it in detail. It's expensive and very comprehensive. There is no free lunch when it comes to high quality medical kits. You get what you pay for. The other one that I really like is my friend David Pruitt AMP3 is their big campaign kit. This is kind of nice because it rolls out and you can see everything that you have, but just have the first aid according to your abilities and what you can do, but have that on hand. I even carry one on my headrest. I really like the headrest kits because you always know where they're at. And man, it's stressful when you're dealing with someone that's injured, and to have these type of kits. This is also from our friends over at Refuge Medical. You can simply just pull this off and take this with you, and you've got a really good comprehensive kit. It's going to have everything that you need, and it just rides right there, no problem. Category number 2 is going to be tire management. Now we're getting into things that's usually most likely to give us trouble. I'll tell you what, this saved my bacon last year. Cat litter. I've been talking about this for a long time. I'd never used it until I had a Zoomer. I had my snow bike trailer on, backed me into a ditch because he wasn't paying attention, and I was stuck in no place. I couldn't get a winch line on it. We spread this out on the tires and we crawled out of it. I will always carry it. It's a really good traction aid. If you've experienced like that really melty ice, like we get out here in the Pacific Northwest, it's always hovering right around 32, 33, 34, and it's so slippery. Sometimes you can be on flat ground and you can't get purchase, you can't get going. You spread a little bit of this on there and it'll work. In a pinch, if you don't have this, use your floor mats. If you have carpeted floor mats, that will also get you going as well. Now, I have an onboard air compressor, which I'll show you after this, so I carry lines. Now, I learned the hard way, if you have one of these big trucks and you mount your air compressor up front in the engine bay, the regular 20-foot hose will not reach the passenger rear tire. So make sure, I mean, you can get around that. If you had to, you could jack it up and take it off and swap it, but that's going to add an extra half hour onto your time. So get enough hose and double check it that you can inflate or deflate tires. Now, why is this important? It's important because a deflated tire is going to improve your traction tremendously. If you get stuck in mud, sand, snow, by letting out pressure and making that footprint, that contact patch of your tire bigger, usually you can get out without having to call a $500,000 tow truck. So inflating and deflating is very important. Also, flats. Having a good tool repair kit. This is something that everyone should have. You can fix your own tires with a good plug setup right here. They're not super expensive, 50, 60 bucks. You can buy lower quality ones that will also work, but this will give you the ability to deal with flat tires. If you go through your spare, you can plug it, you can air yourself back up. I would not be comfortable. I would not consider you to be pro-ho if you don't have some basic abilities. Now, if you don't have onboard air, all is not lost. Just go with like a Milwaukee compressor. I've got the little M12. It's a wonderful little machine. It'll do all you need to do. And this is a little bit of a luxury, but this is an ARB deflator, and it speeds up the job of deflating tires. These high volume tires on these big trucks take a long time, and this will give you the ability to remove the valve stem and dial in the exact pressure that you want. So even if you don't have this, make sure you mix in a tire pressure gauge so that you can have some consistency and don't get them aired down too low. When I mention onboard air, what that means is a 12-volt compressor that runs off of your battery here that you can air up with. So what you have here, this is a little ARB, and there's a quick attach right here, so you can just hook your hose in right there, turn on the switch, and now you can air up your rig. Now, why do I put my switch in the engine compartment? Well, because I'm not a fool. Don't put it in your cab. If you put it in your cab every time you want to use it, turn it off and turn it on, you got to go in and out, in and out. Have it right here on a rocker switch where you're actually using it. Onboard air is a very handy thing to have. This would be my top recommendations for what I would do first to customize a truck. If you live in country where there's animals or protesters, a bull bumper or something that you could just, whatever hits it's going to fly off. This is a buck stop. Incorporate a winch with a front tow hitch as well, a good heavy duty winch. Make sure you get something big enough to pull out your truck loaded with a trailer. So 12,000 pounds minimum for a big truck. Suspension and lighting upgrades are pretty important. lot of the trucks that don't, unless it's like a Raptor or something, the suspension's pretty bad. So good suspension, good tires, accessory lighting, and locking differentials. At least in the rear, if you can get front and rear, that really gives you a capable rig. Outside of that, running boards if you're over 50. And the number one most important category, recovery gear. Recovery gear. Well, you may disagree, but you would be wrong, because none of that other stuff is necessary if you can get home. And getting home and getting out of the ditch is very important to me. And I've never had to spend the night out. I always sleep in my own bed. Recovery gear. One of the best inventions in the last 20 years, maybe 50, are these dynamic ropes, these Bubba ropes. There's lots of different brands. Unlike a chain, they don't come up and jerk your teeth out. There's a lot of stretch in them, and these are the best thing for retrieval. Get a 30-footer. 20s are too short. They're expensive, but you will not regret it. It is, if you just have this with a couple of soft shackles right here, let's say you don't have a winch, have this kit right here. 2 soft shackles and a Bubba rope, and that's going to do you a lot. You can have someone that can hit this thing, 10 miles an hour, let's not get carried away, and really helps to get you up out of the snow or muck or whatever you're in. If you're running a winch, don't be that guy. I've been that guy when you've got out into a place and needed your winch controller and you didn't have it because you put it in a box somewhere and you took the box out and you have to hot wire your winch. Don't do that. So make sure you have your winch controller and a tree strap. You don't want to throw your cable, especially if you're using wire rope, around a tree. It will damage it. So a big wide tree strap will protect that. Plus, it will give you a little bit of extra if your winch line is just not quite enough. And it seems more times than not, it's about 4 or 5 feet shy. Have a retrieval, a hitch-mounted retrieval shackle. Don't pull on a trailer ball. Now, we've all done it, but it's very dangerous. You can go online and you can watch horrific videos where those have slingshotted, went through the glass and killed the occupant. So pull your hitch out and have one of these the proper way with the proper shear. You can put this in the front or in the back. That's why you want to have that dual hitch set up front and rear, but have one of these guys right here. Snatch block or donut, if you have synthetic line, these are really important for redirecting. Say you need to pull yourself back out backwards. I use these often. Probably 1 out of 10 times I winch, I require, maybe 1 out of 5, I require one of these. Have a set of leather gloves, especially if you have wire rope on your winch, because the wire ropes break and it is very, very hard on your hands. So have some leather gloves. And I always include, in addition to the soft shackles, I include just an old school one, because you get a lot of these cars, they don't have purchase points or retrieval hooks, and you can get under there, and usually with these you can find something, but I'm not going to sacrifice for some dummy that slid off in the snow and was doing something stupid. I'm not going to sacrifice and break or cut one of my nice shackles if he doesn't have anything to hook onto or there's a sharp edge. So having this in there, you can throw this on there, put it in the frame, wherever. But that's basically it. That's really all you need for the retrieval kit. Beloved, don't disregard this knowledge, these lists. And I'm not saying that to be boastful. What we have here is we have a knowledge base that goes back to my grandfather, his father, although my dad, all of the firefighters and wildland guys that I worked with, and just years of experience to distill it down. This isn't pie in the sky here. This isn't like internet things that sound cool. This is real world practicality. When I'm doing these lists, I'm always trying to ask myself, what can I take away? What is fantasy versus fiction? What are the things that we're really going to need? This is what it looks like to be a traditional conservative, or traditional, maybe not conservative, a traditional man. You guys all claiming, yeah, you want a TradCon woman and you want your woman to do traditional things and to cook and to clean and to give you babies and stay at home and this sort of thing. And that's fine. But also, you have to fit your responsibility, or you have to meet your responsibilities in your role as protector and being able to solve problems and deal with situations. This toolkit, what I've shared with you, will give you the ability to solve a lot of problems. There's always, whenever I do this, there's always someone that will roll in and say, oh, that's just ridiculous. Who would possibly carry all that stuff? Not you. But guys like me, traditional conservative guys that want to be able to handle situations and don't want to rely upon AAA, and also you'll lose the respect of your woman. You know, I'm going to get up on my soapbox right here. If you're a man, you don't have the ability to solve problems and take care of issues, and you haven't put the work in to make sure, you don't have to have all this stuff. You don't have to be perfect, but I'll tell you, you will lose respect of your woman if you are in a situation that's stressful or difficult or dangerous, that you don't have the tools or you haven't taken the time to prepare to do everything in your power to protect you and yours. This is what men do, and this may be something that may be a surprise to a lot of you, but this is commonplace in how I grew up. My grandfather had basically the same kit in his truck. My dad was the same way. This is what men do, and this is why I do these videos, because a lot of folks have never seen this before. And if you haven't seen it or haven't really considered it and you think it's excessive, it's not. This is just what men do, and this is what it takes to get through life, solving your own problems and not relying upon another man to come and pull your nuts out of the fire. May God bless you and your families. Please keep us in your prayers, and we'll see you all on the next video.